Hi, and welcome to KXAM Plus. I'm your host, Esmeralda Zamora, and today we have our Weather Answers with Rich segment where we sit down with our meteorologist, Rich Siegel, to answer some viewer questions related to meteorology, weather, sometimes our weather app, our website. And to do this with me, we have our KXAM meteorologist, Rich Siegel. Rich, how are ya?
It's a good day today. It's good to be with you.
It is, and the holidays are here, so it's holly jolly all here in the newsroom. But let's get into these questions because some of them are pretty interesting. That first one that we have for you is, how can you see the moon during the day sometimes?
Biggest thing about this is that the moon reflects the sunlight while it is up. And we know that there are four phases of the moon. There's the full moon, there's the first quarter, there's the third quarter, or as some people call it, the last quarter, and then there is the new moon. But the basic premise is that the moon reflects the sun while it is up during daylight hours. The near full moon, and we're talking about the waxing ibis, before the moon turns completely full, you can see the near full moon, both in its waxing gibbous stage as it's getting towards the full moon, or in its waning gibbous stage where it's moving away from the full moon. But you can't see it when it's completely full because it's in direct opposite of the sun. But you can see it in other portions of its waxing gibbous and waning gibbous phase. The first quarter is most visible in the afternoon, and that's because the first quarter moon rises around noon, so you can see it visible during the afternoon. The third quarter, or the last quarter, is more visible in the morning shortly after sunrise because the last quarter, or the third quarter, rises around midnight, and you can never see the new moon because it's between the Earth and the sun, and so you're not going to be able to see much, if any, of the new moon. So that's the short answer to the question. Essentially, it does reflect sunlight.
It reflects the sunlight. Sometimes when I'm driving home from work, I see the moon at 5 o'clock on the drive, and you can see it in the distance, like past the clouds, but you see the whole moon shape. And I've always thought that, like, why can we see this right now?
Just know it's the sun that is contributing to your ability to see the moon when it is up during daylight hours.
And during what time of year does it normally pop out the most? Is it like springtime, summertime, or all year?
Because of its cycle during its monthly cycle, you can see it visible. More numerous during the daylight hours when you were in daylight saving time versus when we're not in daylight saving time. So you can see it more during the spring and summer and early fall.
So not really around this time of year.
Well, you can still see it if we have a nice clear day, if we don't have any clouds.
That's interesting. Have you ever seen the Twilight movies?
No.
When you were listing the different phases of the moon, that's all I could think about.
Oh, okay.
New moon, eclipse, breaking dawn.
Oh, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
I did make another note about that. You can, and I'm not sure for the reason behind this, but you can, I believe, see the new moon when there is an eclipse. It's very faint, but you can still see it during the daylight, but it's not as visible as the other phases of the moon when we're talking about the full moon, the first and the third quarter.
And what about when we have those eclipses, like the one we had, I think it was last year, where it all went dark for a couple minutes and then...
Well, that's what we're talking about.
That's when you could see it?
Yes, when we have a solar eclipse or an eclipse, and depending on the time of the day that it's occurring, when there is a new moon, you might be able to see it faintly up in the sky.
Rich, what's your favorite moon phase?
Full.
Full? Why? Because you can see the whole thing?
Yes.
That's funny. Well, our second question is, how long will the current heat wave last? Because it is just almost the last week of December, and we're in the 80s.
And that's going to be continuing all the way through the week. There is a pattern change coming, but ahead of that, as we talked about in previous Weather Answers with Rich, it's all about the jet stream. The main branch of the jet stream is still far to the north. It enters the country in the Pacific Northwest and moves across the northern portion of the country. And as long as it sits up there, then we're going to continue to see unseasonably warm temperatures here. People, when they talk about a heat wave, usually they're talking about when the temperatures are in the 90s and triple digits. And so this prolonged heat spell is going to last through the weekend, this upcoming weekend. The high temperatures around this time of the year should be in the low 60s and the lows should be in the low 40s. But we're going to continue to see highs in the upper 70s to low 80s and lows that will be actually warmer than the actual normal high temperature. So we're talking about mid and upper 60s. But as I said, there is a pattern change coming, and colder air is going to arrive next week because there'll be a shift in the jet stream. And this is what I'm talking about. There is the main branch of the jet. And we showed this, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago, and the pattern never changed, but it is going to be changing as we get past Saturday night into Sunday when another cold front drops in. This is going to drop our temperatures from the 70s and 80s on Saturday to the 60s and 70s on Sunday, the 50s on Monday, and the 30s for lows on Tuesday morning.
Wow, that sounds nice, but it looks like most of the country is pretty warm for this week.
For this week, yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's interesting. This next question, before I pop it up on our screen, I want to know who sent you this question.
I don't remember.
Was it a
I
kiddo?
wrote it. I had the name of the person that wrote it down, and I don't have it with me.
That's funny. This is a good question.
Yeah.
This one is, are the maps you point to during the weather segment on a screen behind you, or is it a camera trick?
So there's Rich on the green screen.
Let's see. Let me pull that up.
There I am. So you see a couple of things. The picture was taken by one of our directors here, and I forgot to move a little bit further to the right. But nevertheless, off of my right shoulder, you see the green color. And then to my left shoulder, you see me standing in front of maps. And so the maps were up, but you can't see them. So this is how it works. The reason that the screen is painted green is because green is now not found in human skin tones.
Interesting.
As a result, we can't wear green clothing, and not too many people have that. You know, the very first, it's called chroma key. The very first chroma key wall that I had, that I stood in front of, was blue.
What?
And it's like, this was back in the mid-1980s in Wichita Falls. And they painted it blue. Not sure why, but eventually they got a little bit smart and realized that more people have blue clothing than they do green clothing.
Yeah.
And so they painted the wall green. If we wore green clothing, and I wanted to be able to show the effect of wearing green on my body, but the curtain that we use has been borrowed by someone and not yet returned. So if we did wear green clothing that kind of matched the color of the wall,
It disappears completely.
the map would show on our body, and people think that's cool. I love when Kristen has her students. She has school visits here, and the kids get in front of the green wall with the green article of the canopy that she uses to show, this is what happens when you put green
Covers
on the green
herself.
wall and you try to cover yourself, but you'll see the effects of the maps on your body, and the kids just seem to have a good grasp of that. On the set, there is one monitor to the left and another monitor to the right.
Do you have that picture again you can pull up?
I'm going to pull that up, and there it is again.
Walk us through how you actually look at the camera that's pointing towards you.
Okay, so I'm looking in the camera, and there is also a monitor in the camera that reflects that we can see what's going on behind us, which is, of course, as you're seeing it at home, you see the maps behind us. But if you were here, you would not see anything. You would just see me pointing to a green wall. So you see in the monitor off of my left shoulder, that's the one on the left, and there is another one on the right. And in the middle, there is that camera shot that is looking at what you're seeing at home. And this is how we know where to point. Now, I'll tell you that it takes a while to learn how to do this, because what you have to remember is that as you're looking at the camera and the wall behind you, east is west and west is east. And that's the concept. You're pointing with your right arm to the west coast as opposed to pointing with your right arm to the east coast because you're turned around. But it's a really neat concept that was developed many years ago to help make the weather story a little more interesting and appealing with the graphics that had been developed over the many years that graphics have been, created. And so this is a really neat way to do this. It takes a while to learn how to do it because you get turned around. And so this is why when people say, well, how did you learn how to do it? In the beginning, It was a general hand wave or a circular motion, not trying to directly point at what you are trying to point out. But then over time, it becomes a whole lot easier because you've been practicing for so long. And I remember years ago, I had to train someone to do this, and she just got so turned around every time. And I said, you just have to remember you're opposite of what you're normally looking at. You're looking at the map and with the maps behind you, where you would normally be looking at it with the maps in front of you. And so when she got that concept under her belt, then she was able to figure it out, and she became very efficient in her map talking and map pointing ability.
Yeah, I bet it makes you very disoriented at first, but like they say, practice makes perfect. So getting out there, practicing your skills helps a lot.
So the question was a great question, and I'm sorry that I don't remember the questioner, but maybe in a future segment I'll bring it back and we can talk about this again.
Yeah, that was a great question.
When I find that green canopy, that green curtain, then I will take a shot of that.
Or maybe I can head into the weather station and I can record you kind of practicing, and we can play that here.
Yeah.
I remember at my first station that I worked at, I had to weather anchor a lot, and I bought a brand new blazer. I was so excited to wear it to work, but it was green, and I didn't notice, and I never wore it again after
Oh, that's too bad.
It's hard. You completely disappear when you wear green on that screen.
You sure do. It's fun. The only 2 days that we could really get away with wearing green on there would be Halloween
and St. Patrick's.
3 days, St. Patrick's and April Fool's Day.
Oh, that's true. Have you ever done that on TV?
Mm-hmm. Not here, because I no
joke?
longer have the green jacket that I used to wear, but I did, and then eventually I gave the jacket away.
That is a funny April Fool's trick.
Yeah.
Well, Rich, we're through with our questions, but there is a weather blog that you have posted on our website. It looks like 2025 will end among the top 5 hottest years. Tell me about that.
This is no surprise. This was actually a very easy blog for me to write because we have been monitoring the temperatures not only for December, but we had also been talking about this all year long, where global warming, the burning of fossil fuels, the gas, the oil, the methane, continues to create some warming across not only the United States, but across the globe as well. And so the good folks at Climate Central, again, with this wonderful system that they have, came up with the fact that as we head to the end of the year, we're likely to be in the top 5 of the hottest years for 2025, mirroring the top 5, 2 of the top 5 hottest years in 2024 and 2023. We certainly have been hotter than normal, warmer than normal, depending on the time of the year that we're talking about, because we've had very few months here in Central Texas where temperatures have been below normal. We've had more above normal days than we've had below normal. And I'm going to be adding some more graphics to this because I just want to make the blog a little bit easier to read. But this tells us that there are at least 16 days where a daily high temperature record was established, likely due to climate change, and only 2 days of below normal because of climate change as well. But certainly we're not seeing too many warm record low temperatures set as opposed to the record cold. We don't have too many of them here, but this was the 2025 count through November 30th, and this will be updated once all of December has been completed. So
and this is in Austin, right? The record
that
highs?
graphic right now is in Austin. Yeah, the other graphic that you saw up to the top, that one right there, is the hottest year globally.
Oh, wow.
Across the entire planet. So
That's
you see that the bright white line
is 2025.
indicating that it's 2025, and it is indicating that we are much hotter than in pre-industrial levels back in the 1850s. And
wow,
I don't see until we get a grasp on this, I don't see this changing much. 2026 could be the same thing as pretty similar to 2024 and 2023.
Would you say it's the same, or do you think it's getting hotter?
I don't want to answer that because I'm not a climatologist, but we just know that the numbers continue to reflect the fact that the planet is warming.
Yeah.
And I rely on people who are smarter than me for that information because my training is not in climatology. We we get great information from those people who study the climate, and this is not. These are long range models. They go and going back in time, not the specific day, but a combination of days. Like for example, when we show normals, we're
Like a
talking
pattern,
about,
right?
We're talking about a 30-year average of highs and lows, but I'm not a climatologist, and I don't want to make predictions because I just don't feel qualified to do so. I will rely on statistics that these folks come up with as a basis for the blogs that I write.
Yeah, but we do know it's getting hot. It's been hot, and as you can see, our Christmas week is hot, right?
Correct.
Well, that article is on our website, kxan.com, right now, if anyone wants to take a look at it and read a little bit more about our hottest years here in the entire Earth and here in Austin. Rich, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And we will see you next year.